So, I don't know if any of you have figured it out yet, but I have an interesting habit of reading, and it's really been coming back recently. Couldn't fathom why that would be, but it might be because I'm constantly taking stuff in and then like dispensing it out and vomiting into a microphone of sorts. But just barely talking about when I was reading last night. I had a hard time getting up today because probably due to the material I was reading. So there are a lot of people out there that they'll say, oh, when you read at night, you want to go to bed and you want to calm down. So what you don't do is you don't read fiction. Read something like a non-fiction book that's boring, and you should be able to fall asleep right away. Problem with that is I don't know if it's just my family or if they were completely bonkers, but sometimes a lot of the time, our nonfiction reading ends up leading to excitement or those I really can't, it's keeping me awake feelings and thoughts. So it's a lot better sometimes to read a fiction, but you still got to be careful of what fiction that you're reading, because sometimes you can get to that exciting part where John Carter is saving the Princess of Mars, and then all of a sudden your adrenaline, like you're rolling and running, and you're still not going to fall asleep anyway. But so why nonfiction? Well, it's boring. You're supposed to learn something, and what really keeps some people up at night, depending on how you think when you're reading, is a lot of this nonfiction can have actionable steps that you can take that maybe you're lacking and maybe need to improve on. Or even sometimes nonfiction can be that way. You see something that you could improve on and implement in your life that would improve it a lot more. So you get those like exciting feelings of like, it's those aha enlightened moments. And those are the things that keep you up at night. Those are the things like, I can do it. And you're excited for what the future holds. So as you're moving forward, it's like, okay, here's where I can add this in. Or at the end of the day, it's like, well, I missed that opportunity to do that. And so it keeps you up at night. But that's the thing, is I think a lot of people see nonfiction books and it's like, oh, it's a book with a bunch of bullet points. It's gonna be boring. You get something like Grit or Edgy Conversations, and it's like, oh, it's one of those books. This is gonna be bad. But then if you really get into it with like the I'm going to learn something attitude, or you're going into it wanting to get something out of it, you start to come across the stories of people that had every odd against them. They were butted up against the wall. They ran a marathon at a snail's pace in muck boots and overalls, straight coming off of the farm field, and won and beat the record by 2 days of an ultra marathon. You hear about those things and it excites you because it's like, okay, maybe there's a bit more that I can do. But it really comes down to attitude. And so when someone says like, oh, at night you just read nonfiction and you'll fall right asleep. The problem is they're basically catering that advice to mediocre people that don't ever learn anything. They're like, oh, yeah, facts and numbers and blah, blah, blah. Other than that, it's like, oh, boring, blah, blah, blah. So they never get excited in life and they never improve. And when you're not improving, you're stagnating, or you're struggling to stay in one spot, treading water in a river, which you have to work hard in order to do that, because there's so many forces working against you. Whereas if you just like had your canoe, which are the tools and knowledge that you have, and you just took that paddle and just pushed on up the river, you would actually get somewhere. It might be slow progress because you're working up current, but you're still making progress. You're hustling in spite of all of the odds against you. So when you read a book, that's kind of how I look at it when I read a book, is there are a lot of things I can still pick up on. So even if it's like a storybook like Lord of the Rings, at the end of the day when I finish it, sometimes some of those stories or sections of it will come back to mind. And it's like, huh, that's interesting. I'd never thought of it that way. And I can grasp a concept from it or correlate it to something else that I'm picking up and learning. It's like, oh, huh. And I mean, I've done it in the past with all kinds of stories. I mean, I've talked about them in other past videos. So if you're looking at the world in a constantly learning manner, then no matter what time of day that you're reading, that reading might keep you up at night, because it could be that like heavy little subject that just weighs down on you and just bothers you. And it just makes you want to change up something. So, I know I haven't been pushing this in the past, but if you like what I do, Patreon links and, well, Subscribe Star links are down in the description. There's Discord. You can subscribe. You can smash whatever like button there is. But yeah, check that stuff out. Send me money. I'll see you later.